Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. We're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got author, motivational speaker, Morgan Richard Olivier. So welcome, Morgan.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you. You're such a talented poet. I think you do such a wonderful job. But let's start this way. Let's introduce you to everybody. Talk a little bit about what got you into writing, into poetry. What made you want to be an author?
Well, I really started writing about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I did articles, and I would do those self-love, positive, glass is always half full type of articles. And
We
your
need those.
mid-20s, right? You do. You always want to have something to make you cheerful, but it's like I think everyone has those seasons in life where it's like reality hits you, and it hits you hard.
Right.
So when I got into that space of my life, I stopped writing. And then when I was, really going to therapy and really doing that inner work and discovering who I am and whose I am, I started writing again. But it was more about pain and lessons and anxiety and depression, which you wouldn't think is something people want to read about.
But I know we all go through it.
Right. That's right. So I started sharing that, and really it took off because I think people value vulnerability in a world where everyone is just trying to live out, hashtags and goals.
I like that because it's true. We all of us have those vulnerabilities. Maybe we don't want them out for everybody to see, but we all have them. We also kind of suffer through that stuff. So I think it's your work is very helpful in that sense, because it lets us know somebody else is going through some of the things we're going through, and two, it can give us a little bit of inspiration, some kind of calming, letting us know that, hey, it's okay, everybody else is having difficulties too. So I think it's the work you do, the writing you do, very important in that respect. But it surprises me that you've only been doing it for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, well, I actually published my first book in 2020. So that's why when people are like, how do you have 5 books? I'm like, well,
That's a lot in 4 years.
no, yeah, yeah. So, but it's amazing, it's my purpose. So I love it.
Yeah, there's writers out there that they're lucky to have a book out a decade. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
writing a book or less than a book a year or more than a book a year, I guess, is
Mhm.
pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. So when you were growing up, did you write poetry then? Or so what were you doing growing up where you weren't writing? Because since you came to it kind of late, what were you doing growing up?
Well, it's funny you asked that because that's actually a question people don't ask. But I realized I was always a deep thinker and
Yeah.
feeler. So although I didn't articulate it or put it in writing, I feel like I always looked at things differently and I felt things to the point where people are like, oh, you're too sensitive, or why do you care so much? But that's how I'm wired.
Yeah.
So having writing, that outlet is one of those things where you give yourself an opportunity to just be free and say what you need to say. And even pain is poetic if you look at it, in a certain light.
I like that because when we're going through difficult times, not always easy to look at the poetic side of the difficulties,
Yeah.
but they're there. Difficulties tend to lead to something better. Whether it's just an improved situation or a new opportunity. That difficulties tend to lead to that. So it's almost the saying, the only way through is to get through it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that really interesting, but it makes sense. So you're a deep thinker, you're kind of, I'm guessing you're going into 2020 like the rest of us and trying to figure out what am I going to do with all this time? I've got this time. I'm probably never going to have it again. And you chose to write.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And 2019, I was writing my first book. So of course, no one planned for COVID to
Right.
happen. But it was a unique thing because my first book was called Questions, Christ, and the Quarter Life Crisis. And I talk about depression and like discovering yourself. So when I published it in 2020, it was actually perfect for a lot of people around the world because they were going through that time I'm now out of.
Right.
So we could resonate with each other. So
Yeah. The timing
all
was
things
really
work.
good. You just hit it a little
Yeah.
early. So I
Yeah.
worked. Yeah. I mean, that worked out so
Yeah.
good. uh, with
Mhm.
that. It's to me, it's kind of inspirational that you're deciding that you're going to write, maybe
Mhm.
not sure exactly where it's going to go. You're just kind of trusting
Mhm.
that it's going to go somewhere, and then here you go, 2020 hits, and now you've got this whole new career.
Yeah,
I mean, pretty impressive, but it also kind of lets you know that there's a plan out there. We just don't always know what it is.
exactly.
Yeah. So talk about that book. So that's your first book. What the title gives it away a little bit, but what's the book about?
So I have 5 books, but the first book is the only one that's not poetry and prose, and it is essentially my testimony. So I start off the book talking about those feelings of just really looking in the mirror and not knowing who you are, those times where, a lot of people look at high functioning
Right.
depression or high functioning anxiety like that's something good, but all that is I'm not inconveniencing you. I'm still suffering. So I dug deep into those emotions and experiences and also talked about how going to therapy and getting into my church not only changed my mind, but changed my life. So it's for people to understand they're not alone in what they go through, even if people misunderstand you or they look at only optics and opinions and 9 times out of 10 they get it wrong. You still have a purpose, and it's to discover the purpose in all seasons.
Well, and I like the fact that you're talking about that time of life where the 20s are hard. When
Ooh.
people go through their 20s, that's to me, that's the hardest decade because you're really trying to establish yourself and figure out what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. I mean, that's the 20s. So I totally get the quarter life crisis. That makes sense to me. And you've written this book, which allows people to say, hey, this was my journey, but it also lets people know that you can get through it. You know, you're not the only one going through difficult times. You just have to figure out your path through.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. How did that book lead you into all the poetry books? Because you've got 4 of those now.
Yeah. So when I did, it's funny, because when I did my first book through a Christian publishing company. All my other ones, I'm an independent author. So when
I
I
know it's
did
really
it,
impressive because you've done so well, and it's not easy promoting your own stuff. I mean, you're almost doing double duty because you've got to be the writer, but you've also got to get people to, you know, to read the book. So that's,
right,
you know, you're doing it all on your own. So that's a lot of hats.
right. But you know what's the amazing thing? How we talk about like there are different seasons or different parts of you that it all works together with something else. Whenever I even published this first book, I still had my own marketing agency. My degree is in marketing, and I have my construction company.
It's all tying
So
together. Now, wait a
it
minute.
all,
You've also got a construction company.
yeah. So I've since transitioned out of it, but it's one of those things. I was second generation. It was my dad's traffic control construction materials company. So I write books or just put things, and I'm in a warehouse. So I always tell people, apparently I'm the don't judge a book by its cover person. But having that exposure really prepared me to be a successful independent author because I learned inventory and I already had the tools for marketing. So they go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think how life tends to, you know, prepare you for what's coming, even though you may not have realized what was coming
Right.
up. I mean, you were probably planning to do something within marketing or construction. Now you're writing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. When you started writing the poetry, did you find that a fairly easy process, or was that something that, you know, you had to struggle a little bit? Did the work just kind of flow through you, or did you have to
Yeah.
really work at it?
Well, yeah, it's one of those things I write all the time. And when I tell people that, I'm like, no, really, like I'll be driving and then I have to get the little voice thing and then speak into it. So I always, if I think of something, I write it down. So all of my books have always started in my notes app of my phone. So that's why it's very easy to get them out because the words I wrote that were published in 2020, well, I wrote them in 2017, like I was living a lot of this. So you tweak it, you format it, you edit it, but a lot of it is just getting it out.
Yeah, we've come a long ways from the days when you just had to sit down at a typewriter and
Right.
yeah, or maybe write notes down on a piece of paper so you don't forget
Uh-huh.
them. A little easier now as far as at least keeping track of the notes. So if you get an idea anytime, you can
Right.
kind of write it down and then revisit it later, which I think is a big advantage over maybe, you know, maybe it's not, but to me that's the
Oh, it
big
is.
advantage of technology is the fact that you can write or record anywhere.
Anywhere, anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty nice. What was the first poetry book?
Blooming Bear.
Blooming Bear. Do your
Blooming
books
Bear.
tend to have, you know, do they do all the poems kind of tie together around a theme, or are they, you know, here's a poem about this, here's a poem about this, you know, different things?
So for the most, they're all, I mean, the poetry and prose is really about like healing and growth. And the thing that they do have in common is that I always use analogies of like plants or flowers growing, because of
Yeah.
course, when we think of anything, you have that dark isolation period, you have growing pains, you blossom, you have strong wind. Like it's, even if it's not set out like that, people that have been readers for a while, they can clearly see the correlation because it is a growth process. And, you know, it takes all of it. It takes light and dark to really bloom and discover who you are.
Yeah. Now I like that because that's true. You know, it's not just the positive experiences, it's the negative ones too that
Yeah,
form us. So I
right.
like that. Do you have those moments where maybe it's more of a dark energy day? So you're writing,
Mhm.
but it's got a little more of a negative slant to it. And then some days are more positive. Do you just kind of go with what you're, you know, where the mood takes you, or is there, do you have more specific type of writing style?
So, kind of both. So if I'm feeling, I've learned too in life that you have to, if you're feeling something, and I'm very much into the spiritual praying, like, and I tell people that
Yeah,
like prayer will get you through. God will get you through. Talking to Jesus will help you get through talking to just anybody with a pulse. Okay.
right,
So, especially like in times where I'm fasting and praying, if I do have situations, you might think of something from the past that's heavy or negative.
right.
I'm going to articulate that, but that's also an opportunity for me to reframe it, and also an opportunity for me to see the positive and the love in it, because there's nothing negative that you go through that doesn't yield an opportunity for something positive. Just like you can look at people as enemies, or you can look at people as inspiration.
Yeah,
And
I like that.
depending on however you choose, that's really going to impact your emotions, how you feel, and also how you treat other people. Because I mean, we can be angry at people all day, but I'd rather use that to not be like that and be kind to people, because I know what that feels like. Or if I have done something or hurt someone knowingly or unknowingly, I know how I've made someone else feel, and I know how that's made me feel. So that's still learning. So it's how you reframe it and how you execute it more than anything.
Yeah, I like that because you have to be aware. If
Mhm.
you're putting stuff out there, you have to be aware of how that affects other people. And it may not always be positive, and you have to choose, am I going to get upset about that? Or am I
Right.
going to take that as an opportunity to reach somebody? And I think your poetry especially does that. It's not um, a hammer. It's more of an
Right.
outreached hand, if that makes sense.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's really good. And I think the newest one is The Strength That Stays. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell me about that one. What's I know it's poetry, but what's that one about? Does it have kind of an overlapping theme, or is it just, a group of random poems?
Oh no. So if a lot of people know of my book, The Tears That Taught Me, which talks a lot about detachment and those like painful life lessons and seasons. But the strength that stays really is like the name. It's the strength that stays behind. So it's making yourself aware and understanding, like, yes, we can harp on detachment, we can harp on painful things, but revelation also gives you the ability to learn the importance of discernment and discretion.
Right. Right.
So it's taking those lessons and holding on to the strength that stays behind them, not the resentment, not the anger. Know what to hold on to. Hold on to the strength and all the things that weigh you down,
That's right.
except that they're that make peace and release them.
Yeah, I really like that. Is there a poem within that book that's your favorite, or is there a few of them that you're kind of attached to, or is it more just the book as a whole?
Well, of course, I love them all, right?
Of
I
course.
always tell people like my books are an extension of my soul. But one of my favorite, I'll say two of my favorites in The Strength That Stays, is one of them is called Be a Safe Person, and another one is called Be the Person You Needed. And mind you, I'm not going to be able to say it word for word. I write a lot of words, but in essence, I was writing and really telling my younger self that you're going to go through times in life where you're going to need a certain type of person. You're going to need certain types of people that could pray for you, support you, love you, speak life and wisdom into you. And
Right.
even if you didn't have that person, you can still be that person for someone else. And you can be
Right.
a safe person. Right. So it's really, I always start the books off with the heavier emotions,
Yeah.
kind of in the middle reframe, and then end it with inspiration and empowerment. So
I love that. I
that,
love it. Yeah. Yeah. Because
thing.
you've got a like an actual purpose with
Mhm.
the way you're writing. And I really like that. And I'm sure that it's developed. I mean, because that was book 5.
Mhm.
So I'm sure book 5 is probably a little
Yes.
bit different than your writing style from book 1.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Going forward, do you have plans to go back to writing, or will you stay with the poetry?
Um, I'm I think I'm gonna go. I actually thought about it. Of course, I'm working on a poetry and prose collection right now, but it's one of those things where you always circle back, right? Because
Right.
even the information that you give, the information that or the advice that you give yourself 5 years ago, it's probably not the same as it is today.
Yeah, probably not.
So I think,
True.
yeah. So I definitely have considered it, and I've had a lot of people in the self-help space really encourage me and say, you really need to do another one, because it's, again, it's great to relate to someone, but then you're in another chapter. So
That's right.
it's good to see those perspectives.
I mean, you're running, it's been half a decade now since the first one came out. It'll be a full decade for too much longer with that. Yeah, of course you're in a different space.
Right.
You know, at the time when you wrote the first one, you probably had no idea if it was going to do any good. Now you're on
But you know
book
what?
5, so you know it's working.
Right. But you know what's the craziest thing about it? I always tell people, and mind you, I always warn people, like, listen, I'm gonna get very spiritual here, but the crazy thing about it is when you find your space and God puts you where he needs you, you'll get those confirmations of where you need to be. So there are things that I'm walking in today that were spoken over my life years ago before I even wrote a manuscript. So as much as it's like, oh, this is amazing, and I'm blessed and I'm amazed, there's that part of my faith that said, but you knew you'd be right here. That's why you listen. That's why you pray. So
You're exactly right. That's the problem, though. Most of us struggle with that. We even if we believe that, if we know that's probably the best way, it's difficult because you got to be patient, and we're never patient. You know, we want that immediate gratification, and you know that's not how God works. He works in His time,
at
not
all.
yours.
That's why I'm like, God, can you just send me a text message? Let me know that I'm doing this correctly. But you're
Like,
so right. But his timing is always right.
we're only here a very short time, so if you could just move this along, I'd appreciate
Right.
it. Now that's terrific. How did that, you know, the writing, how did that lead to doing, say, motivational speaking?
Because because they go hand in hand.
Sure.
Oh, I was just always a person where it was easier. I'd rather share my words and how I feel than like my face or have attention. I've always been like that. I never really liked a lot of attention. So, but knowing your purpose, like we're saying, I was called to be a writer and a speaker. So, my pastor told me that not too long ago. She's like, okay, you're doing great and I'm so proud of you, but you do know your purpose is larger than your comfort zone. So there are a lot of things these past 2 years, especially, I'm learning, like, no, you actually have to get out there. You have to touch people. You have to look them in their eyes. You have to record TikToks and do these things,
Right.
because you can have all the words, but faith comes by hearing. And also that's how you reach people, is showing them that you are human and you are sincere. So yeah, it's really started that way, and it's been great.
How has your family taken to you being a writer?
Oh, they love it. They love it. My husband's very encouraging, and I'm an overthinker. So I'm like, do you think this is too personal? And Rusty's like, if you lived it and you felt it, put it down. So I'm like, okay.
Does he does he like, not edit, but does he kind of proofread for you to let you know, yeah, that one's pretty good, but this one it maybe needs some work.
Well, what's funny, and I think husbands, y'all are like this. I will read, I've read every manuscript to him, and he always tells me, it's like, Morgan, I'm pretty sure there's nothing that I wouldn't agree with, but I like the fact that he's always been so encouraging. And I say that all the time, like, I don't think I would have pursued half of the things without him, because sometimes the person, like, people around you see you more clearly than you do.
Right.
So he's pushed me a lot, and not a aggressive, but a more thing like, okay, we'll try this. If there's a no, you're going to live. Put this out there. If you don't like it, you're going to live. And that's helped me a lot to come out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, good for him. He's being supportive, but also kind of pushing you a little bit without actually pushing you, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. It total sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's so as a couple, it's difficult sometimes not focusing completely on your own stuff. You know, as a couple though, you've got to be supportive for each other. So if you're doing, you know, if your thing is different than what your spouse's thing is, then you've got to be supportive of that. And that's kind of I think a lot of couples struggle with that because they come in and maybe they're a little selfish, maybe they're just tied up in their own stuff, whatever it is, but they don't give that piece of themselves to be that support for their significant other. And that's where I think a lot of couples really struggle. So that's terrific that you guys are there supporting each other and maybe pushing each other just a little bit, because you need that voice of reason, let's say.
Oh, for sure. I would stay up in my house in a Snuggie writing and not going around anyone, just with my dogs. But having, like you're saying, it's a balance, and you pull he's more of an extrovert, I'm more of an introvert. So you naturally pull those things out of, like you're saying, your husband or your wife.
Yeah, I love that. Good for the both of you that you're there for each other, because it's so much easier when you've got someone supporting you. It doesn't have to even be active support. Just knowing that somebody's there, it's really good. I know with the podcast, I'm really good at recording. I can sit and talk to people all day, every day, and I love it. But there's a lot more to the podcast than just the recording part. You got to have the recording, but you got to market. You got to you got to get the recording out there so people can hear it. You know, sometimes you got to bring in advertisers that I'm not overly fond of, but it's so important to the podcast. I struggle with that stuff. I'm lucky because I've got my son handles a lot of it, thank God. But I've also got my wife who has more of that analytical business mind, and she'll keep me focused, and even she's like, well, you've done 20 interviews this week, but what have you done with them? Have you done anything to get them out there where people can hear them? And most of the time my answer is like, no. I've done the interviews, but I haven't done anything with them. So you need that person that can kind of keep you on track, hold you accountable without, beating you over the head, that type of person. For me, it's my son and my wife. I'm kind of lucky. I've got two people that can kind of keep me straight.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And that's so important.
Yeah, you have to have it. You have to have it. So if, let's say, I'm running a company, whatever it is, and I'm interested in having you come to speak, what would you come and speak about? What would I be reaching out to you for?
Well, probably something, if you want me to speak, would be in regards to empowerment and really helping people, especially if they're in seasons where they need to be motivated or they need to feel seen, heard, and understood. And as basic as that sounds, it's actually critical in any realm, whether it's professional or personal, because people perform best when they feel their best, when they see themselves most clearly. And I think that is one of the things that everyone really overshadows. Everyone wants results, the numbers, but you have to understand that that person has to be their best, healthiest self to perform.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So is there a central theme or message that, if someone comes across your books, is there something that you would like them to take from it? And I'm sure there's a ton of stuff, but is there kind of that one thing from your writing that you would like to pass on to people?
The raw beauty of sincere progress. And I've said that.
That's good. You have the best turns of phrases. That's really good. Yeah.
Thank you. But I've said that from the beginning, and it's one of those things where I get people that review books or talk to me on social media, and the amount of times I've had people say, I've always felt this, but I didn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
Or people say, me too, I feel like that too. That's the whole point. It's just for you to feel seen, heard, understood, and know that even if you are in your darkest season, it's a season. it's not a life sentence. It's not forever. But what you're feeling is valid, what you're learning is important, and you're going to look back and see how, again, all things work together, but you have to get through it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so well said. Are you musical at all?
Not in public.
I was asking because poetry is only like half a step removed from songwriting. So I was just curious,
Songwriting.
have you ever
Yeah.
have you ever thought of that?
Someone told me that before. I've actually had quite a few people tell me, "You ever considered songwriting?" And I've never done it, but just as you're saying, I could see, especially depending on the type of genre,
Right.
gospel or anything like that, because again, it really reaches with what you're feeling and gets you to look higher than yourself. So who knows?
Yeah, I can totally see it. I think your writing is good enough. It'd be easy to transfer that to lyrics. I think you just have to figure out what you want to sing about.
You right, right. Who knows?
What's 2024 hold for you? Are you working on a new book? Are you doing more engagements? Is there something new? What's coming up this year?
Well, all of that. I'm working on a new book as we speak.
Yeah.
And I'm also scheduling more engagements, more conferences, speaking, and also learning, because that's one of the things too, of aligning yourself with like-minded individuals. So I have speaking engagements set up, really getting myself and my books out there and connecting with people, because a lot of women, especially men too, but need to have that conversation and need to be in the room, not just in the book.
Yeah. Have you
Mhm.
done book signings in the past?
Yes.
Yeah, those are kind of
And I
fun.
love them.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
give you a chance to connect with fans.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a humbling thing because you don't realize you put things out, and when people come or they bring their books or I had that the other well, last month I did a book signing in Houston, and a woman came and she brought her books and she bought some, and she was just telling me how much especially the tears that taught me really brought her through. She was going through a divorce at the time,
Yeah,
and you really it just sits there and it's like it's not about you, the person, like even when you talk, it's what, what we're here for.
that's right.
So I don't know, it does something and it reminds me like, no, this is this is the right thing. This is what I'm here to do. And again, everything that you live and see and experience is not just for yourself. It's for somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, and
So I
good for
love it.
you for actually sharing it, because most of us have those
Mhm.
moments, but we don't do anything with it. I mean, maybe we learn from it ourselves,
Mhm.
which is important, but we don't pass that on to other people. But you're very aware, I think, when stuff comes into your mind of saying, okay, this is helpful to me. How can I pass this on to other people? And you do that. I'm very impressed with that, because most of us don't. We have thoughts and we just don't do anything with them. You've written 5 books. That's that's pretty amazing. When do you have notebooks just full of stuff waiting to be used? Yeah.
Oh, course. And that's why I tell people I have manuscript, like I have large binders because again, it's constant. And now that I'm doing, an author and speaker full time and I'm not in construction, I'm not, doing campaigns and being someone else's marketing strategist, it's even more because I'm able to really sit and just think or reflect or pray. That's when everything really just flows. So it's not, and I don't know how that sounds, but it's not a thing where it's like, oh, I have to sit here and think about this. It's like, no,
Right.
it's the more you out, the more you get, if that makes any
It
sense.
does. It makes sense.
So,
I know some authors are like that.
mhm,
They're like, okay, from 2 to 3, that's my writing time. So they sit down, they start writing. But then once they're done with
mhm,
that time, they're done until it's time again. With that, most writers, I think, kind of go with how you do. When stuff comes in, you write. no matter when it is. That's just
Right.
you write. Most of us don't have just set times to sit down and write. But the downside to that is you're never 100% free, because you
Right. No,
gotta be
you're saying it
available to
correctly.
write.
Right. You're right, because it's at all times. So that's what I tell people. It's like the interesting thing about any creator, whether you're a musician or an artist or a writer, is that you work at all times. You're an early bird and a night owl, because when creativity hits you, you have to move. So like even with you, with like you're saying your podcast and you have all this stuff, you might sit there and have all this material and you let it sit there for a set amount of time. But once you get that little lightning bolt and like, I have to do this,
Yeah, do it.
the amount of work that gets done is you can't even describe it.
Yeah, for me, it kind of looks like just a mess of material and stuff until it's not. It all just sitting there waiting. But then once I get going, and sometimes I'll try to get going and it just doesn't work out. But once I get going, I can knock out a ton of stuff in a pretty short period of time. So I love those times. They just don't come enough. Yeah. No, I totally get leaving the construction company. I did something similar. I left my day job a couple months back because the podcast was getting to the point that I couldn't put the time into both. So I had to choose, where do I want to put my energy? And I want to put it in the podcast. So that was, for me, it was one of those, a little scary, giving up the security of that, career I've been doing for 10 years. But it's so great when you're chasing something that you love and that really inspires you. It takes some courage to get out there and do it, but it's the best. Even even if it all crashes down at some point, doesn't work out and stuff, I won't regret it, because I've learned so much and I've met so many people along the way. And I'm sure you're the same way. All the things you've learned as you've been writing, the people you've met, the experiences you've had, I'm sure you wouldn't give them up, even if they say ended tomorrow.
No, it's priceless, and it's necessary.
Yeah.
I was blessed. My dad is the one that told me ahead of time, because your parents know things. They're very wise. I always tell people, like, look, save yourself a lot of time and heartache and just listen to your parents. Like, just do it.
And you know why they're wise? Because they already made the mistakes. That's how
they've lived.
Yeah, they live.
Exactly.
But as kids, we're not very good at listening. It's like, no, I'm just going to go ahead and try it myself and see if it works out.
Right. Let me cry first. Let me cry, and then I'll know.
I say that with my kids all the time. Is I told you how it was going to work.
Right.
Because I've been through it. You didn't really have to do it. You could have just skipped it and been like, okay, that's a bad idea. I just won't do it. But that's not how it worked. They're like, yeah, you try it for myself.
And that's right. And that's probably how you learn too. And I learned too. It's like you could, you could. I think that's the beautiful thing about it, though. Like we were saying earlier, it's like everyone talks about trial and error, but no one wants to give themselves grace and forgiveness for when they have error or when they fail or something doesn't go well. It's like, no, it's part of it. You can't have wisdom without experience. Of course, you can learn from other people and see and listen, but those true lessons that stick with you, a lot of times they have to hit you. They have to hit you hard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Which is what the kids say to me. They're like, I need to go through it. If I just tell them, then they know that's probably not going to work out, but they don't know.
Oh, right. You don't really know.
They don't really know. And they definitely don't appreciate the downside, because you don't until you get through it. So I don't know. Maybe it's just as well to go through some of that stuff and learn that way. But as a parent, difficult to watch, because you're like, I already did that. It's a disaster. Don't do it. And they're like, I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway.
Right.
And I'm that way with my parents still.
Really?
Yeah, of course. My parents will say stuff every once in a while. Nah, you don't want to do that. I'm going to do it anyway. Let me try. And then I'll have to go back later. I'm you were right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing though, like wise counsel. I tell people all the time, like having wise counsel or knowing those people, like, look, this person has wisdom, they have experience. I'm gonna ask them because they're gonna save me a lot of time, money, and heartache. And
That's right.
boy, it never fails. You know, anytime you have anything to do, whether it's personal or professional, talking to that wise counsel, it usually works out and you have peace. So
Yeah.
that makes it
Well, and that's
so
the
much.
difference. There's a difference in being intelligent and having wisdom. They're not the same thing.
Oh,
Wisdom, in my opinion,
no.
is at times more valuable because you can
Oh,
avoid a lot of difficulties if you've got wisdom, but you usually don't get the wisdom until you screw.
experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Morgan, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. You got to come back when, like in March when you bring out book 6 or whenever it is. You got to come back and talk to us. I mean,
Look,
you're so prolific. You're putting a book out about every 6 months. That's
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
it's been great. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
will
it's been
definitely,
impressive.
anytime you're available, I'll be more than happy to come back.
Yeah, it's been terrific. Couple little things before we wrap up. Um,
Mhm.
Anything that you're working on that we can keep an eye
Mhm.
out. The newest book is The Strength That
Mhm.
Stays. There's also The Tears That Taught Me. Let's see, Blooming Bear,
Mhm.
One Still Whisper, which also came out last year, I think. And then
Mhm.
Questions Christ and the Quarter Life Crisis, which is one of my favorite titles ever.
Thank you. It's a tongue twister, but it's you get what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything else coming out this year?
Well, I'm working on one, so just stay tuned for that. And of course, I can't release the name yet, but it's definitely, if you're on that healing journey of really letting things go
Yeah.
and giving yourself permission to do it, and that honest awareness of, no, I'm carrying this, because we don't want to do that all the time. We want
That's
to say, oh,
right.
I'm not bothered, I don't care. No, no, no. If we're honest and we can be accountable and say, I've been carrying this weight of anger or insecurity or resentment or whatever that weight is, this book is for that person. And also is going to help them if they're insecure or they struggle with people pleasing and proving. This is what this book is for.
I love it. Yeah, that's so great. So last thing before we go, where can we find you? Where can we find your work on social media?
Okay, so on social media, you can find me on Facebook at Modern Morgan, as well as on Instagram at Modern Morgan. I'm also on TikTok, Morgan Richard Olivier. All of my books are available on Amazon. And of course, all of my books are available on my website, modernmorgan.com.
Yeah, and your website's really
Another,
good. Do you
yeah.
do the website yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, you do a good job on it because I know that takes some effort. I mean, it's one thing to create it, but maintaining it's a pain. So you do a really good job. It's easy to navigate.
Thank you. And I'm blessed to have a great team. So that's why I tell people, I'm like, look, I have a whole fulfillment team. I have customer service. It's a whole group of people. But I'm blessed. I'm grateful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Morgan. This has been terrific. Such an honor to meet you. Such a fan of the poetry with that. I never appreciated poetry like I should when I was younger. But as I've gotten older, I like it's like the older I get, the more I enjoy poetry because it stirs something inside of me where maybe I wouldn't sit still long enough to have it affect me when I was younger. As I get older, I'm listening, I read stuff, and it affects me harder. So I love it. I think it's not only moving, but it's also helpful and a little bit educational. So congratulations and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. And it's been an honor meeting you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
this has been
much.
great. Okay, hold on one second. Morgan Richard Olivier, really talented writer. So thank you guys for tuning in again this week. Definitely don't take you for granted. We appreciate it so much. Just love that interview. I'm such a poetry fan. I think Morgan does such a terrific job for us. The newest book is called The Strength that stays. She also put out One Still Whisper last year as well. So 2 books from last year. Do yourself a favor and check Morgan's work out. Not only will you enjoy it, but I think you might get something out of it. It's very, very helpful, very inspirational. It's really, really well done. Thank you guys for tuning in again this week. Appreciate you. Just a couple quick plugs for us. If you're a watcher and you'd like to support us, we'd love to have your subscription. It's free. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Our website's meistercon.com. We've got let's see, yesterday we put out episode 725. All of those audio and video are on the website meistercon.com, so definitely check us out there. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. You know, not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. You know, those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, you know, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.